I was promised that I would get healed and that I would change through this. And the message that was like being spoke was that these people who are leading this group already got their healing and it's possible for me. And so I was so excited come together in these small groups and we'd have each other share. Underlying theme of their stories was like, I struggle with same-sex attraction and I'm not happy and I want to change, but I can't. And like the highlight of some of these people's week is like, I saw a girl walk by and like, I thought she was pretty. And like, that was the highlight is like, at least I thought she was pretty. And I'm like, oh, what the I don't think I want to be in this room of people. I don't want to be sitting here in 20 years from now.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. This is Nate, and I am here with a very good friend of mine, one of my first gay friends, actually. This is Judah Robinson. Judah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Nate. It's a pleasure.
You are one of my first friends at Jesus Culture that we had met briefly in passing, but then found each other afterwards. You became in such an important part of my life, and I really, well, honestly, just thank you for being such a good friend in that season. And obviously, we're not in the same city, but still being such a great friend now. So, really appreciate you.
No, Nate, I appreciate you. Nate, me and Nate definitely had each other at really hard times in our life and when we were going through a lot. So, yeah, I feel like we understand each other in a lot of ways. And we also used to ride our bikes together like once a week. And you kind of like taught me how to ride a bike because I didn't really know how. Yeah, so.
And then we rode so much and so far. It was amazing.
So much. You really pushed me. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Wow, I'm like an exercise coach. I never thought anyone would tell me that. That's amazing. But to get to the nitty gritty of it all, obviously we went through a very similar journey. We both went to Bethel School of Ministry, which I think is really interesting because we went at different times, and your experience at Bethel School of Ministry ended up being pretty intense. I know you ended up jumping into the change movement for a little bit, which I know people have been through, and there's just some intense stuff there. It's very conversion therapy-esque. So I really wanted to dig into that part of the story because I feel like that needs to be talked about. That's such a personal thing to me because that's the world I came from, and it's really affecting people negatively. But before we get into that, I would love to just hear a little quickie of where you came from and when you started realizing you were gay, was it accepted, that whole first growing up part of your story.
So a little bit, really quickly, I'm originally from Oklahoma. I was raised in like the Bible Belt, very like evangelical, like where there's like billboards saying it's like time to repent and all that fun stuff. I was raised like going to a lot of like ministry events and conferences and always had to go to youth group. That was kind of just my whole upbringing. I suppressed my sexuality all growing up to the point where it's like I didn't even really believe that like I was different. I know being where I was, like I never saw a gay person in Oklahoma. Like I never was exposed to that. And
you didn't look in a mirror ever?
I mean, no, I did, but I was in such denial, such deep denial. But it's funny now because my parents were like pretty homophobic and all that type of thing. But me and my brother are both gay now, so joke's on them.
Yeah.
But no, so I was raised in kind of that whole world, and like to the point where one of the schools that my parents put me in wasn't even a real school. It was called Supernatural Academy was the school. It wasn't even accredited, but they put me in this school when I was in like 7th grade. It sounds like so Harry Potter-ish, but like...
Well, Bethel is that too, so that's funny.
Totally.
You're in supernatural schools your whole life. I was very inspired by that, maybe.
Maybe. When I was in 7th grade, like I didn't learn anything. And so, yeah, I definitely wasn't the smartest. And so like I was in high school figuring out my sexuality, figuring out myself, all these things. I dated a girl at one point and quickly learned that I didn't like that. And that was kind of the start of like, I'm definitely not straight.
Are you thinking about it? Are you just totally putting it to the side this whole time? Like when was this when you were starting to date this girl? Like was this teens or?
Yeah, so I was probably like 14, 15 at the time. And I think I had such a deep suppression that it really wasn't at the forefront of my brain of like, I'm gay and I'm hiding this. It was just so suppressed. And I think I faced it whenever I was like doing things with this girl and I was like, I hate this. So that's when it was kind of like an awakening moment. And so then I became like curious about guys and like had a desire to be with a guy, but I never like acted upon it. And throughout my high school like journey, I had that like longing, but I never acted on it. And I ended up not going to like college straight away. I didn't have a very good GPA because I was at Supernatural Academy. and, and yeah, definitely wasn't the smartest. And long story short, I ended up graduating high school and going to Bethel.
What drew you to Bethel?
Yeah, so I've always been like a dreamer, like at night sleeping dreams. And I don't know if this was God at the time I like attribute it to God, but I've always just had like these really intense intuition dreams. And I had a dream that I was living in Northern California and I was going to this Bible college and I knew it was called Bethel. And like I knew Bethel music, but I didn't know that there was a college to it. And so in this dream, I was like living in this place and like had all these friends and learning all this stuff about God and Jesus and the Bible. And it was just a really beautiful dream. And I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, is this place real? And I looked it up and like I found BSSM, Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, and my heart like just started to come alive reading about it. And I was like, wow, I feel like God's calling me to go here. And it was the only thing that made sense in my life at the time was like I have nothing else going for me or like no really direction. And so yeah, I ended up applying and packed my car when I was like 18 and moved across the country to go to Bethel.
Wow. No, it's really interesting when I was in a very similar ministry world too, where I was in like weird, I was in homeschooling, but like same idea with like supernatural school. Like I was in a family that was trained to, like they're training you to be in some sort of ministry. So Bethel just seems like such a natural fit. Totally. It's interesting with your dream though, like how you were feeling like a spiritual pull, because we've talked about spirituality post evangelicalism and like sorting like, okay, we had all these spiritual experiences, what do we do with them now? And that's something I'll always be thinking about. Like even though I went through some negative experiences, there were some really like beautiful spiritual moments in the middle of it. So that's a lot of mystery in that.
A lot of mystery. Yeah. Yeah. So I ended up like starting at BSSN, didn't know anyone, never met someone who went to this school, had really no idea what to expect. I just was this 18-year-old full of like passion and zeal and like excited for like, I want to change the world. And like, that was like the call of it was like, we're raising revivalists to change the world. And so I fit in that box of like, let's go, let's do it. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm excited. And one of the first days of school, I was never like fully knowing or expecting how like my sexuality would play into this world, this BSSM world. But when one of the first days of classes, there was a speaker. Her name's Leslie Crandall. She's a beautiful human. She gave a message about receiving love and what does it look like to receive love. And like one of the things that like really stuck out to me was she was talking about how like it's impossible to receive love without being transparent and vulnerable about your story and where you come from. And like this message of like, if we fully knew how loved we were, we would change the world and like nothing could stop us. And this message so resonated with me and I was like, whoa. And that was the first time I was like, I need to be open about what I'm going through and like my struggle with being gay and all these things was from that moment.
Did you tell them?
So in this like BSSM context, there's like a group of 1,300 of us during my year, and we're placed in these groups of like 70 people. They're called revival groups. And in these groups, you have like a direct mentor who you go to and like they give you feedback, you meet with them, they're supposed to like lead you through the year and like you're supposed to be open with them, blah, blah, blah. So I met with mine. His name was Tim. He was like a Australian dude, pretty cool. And first time I like interacted with him really was like in this one-to-one meeting where I was like, I'm going to tell him everything about me and all my dark secrets and blah, blah, blah. So I did. and I told him like that I'm gay and that it's something that like I've suppressed and dealt with and all these things. And like he stopped me like straight away when I said that I'm gay. And he said, "You can't say that."
Yeah.
Because in this environment, they like to label it as same sex attraction because I'm not owning that I'm gay. Like, that's not who I am, was kind of their thinking. And so the word gay was like immediately erased. Like, you struggle with same sex attraction, is what he told me. And so
Yeah.
from that point forward, I never used the word.
Wow.
So I struggle with same sex attraction. I let him know. And I remember at the end of the meeting, he prayed over me and he gave me a prophetic word, which is a whole nother conversation about prophecy and all that fun stuff. But in his prophetic word, he told me, "I see you in 10 years getting married to a woman and having kids and living in a beach house," which I was like, sign me up for the beach house.
I'll take the beach house and I'll take the kids.
I don't know
And
if
one
I'll,
other thing, maybe
I
not.
don't know if I'll take the kids, but not right now, at least. Because this was almost 10 years ago, so I'm like, dang it, I think I missed it. But after this meeting, immediately, he made me meet with our like head pastor that was over our group, because I needed to, I guess. And so I met with her and kind of shared her the same thing with her, except I changed the language. So now I struggle with same sex attraction instead of saying that I'm gay.
SSA.
SSA.
Yep.
And yeah, there's this whole language and this whole idea in this environment of like submitting your life to leadership and like submitting your life so you can like, you know, pretty much have their input and say into like the decisions and choices that you make and all these things. So I'm in a very vulnerable place. I'm 18. I'm in this new environment and I'm meeting with her. I'm talking to her and kind of telling her my story. And she's like, thank you for sharing, like trying to be compassionate, but pretty much was like, I have homework for you. You need to go to this group and it's called the Change Movement. And she started telling me about it. And she started saying like, these are people who once struggled with same-sex attraction, who are now married with kids and like have come out of that lifestyle. And this group is for people who want that or desire that or need support to get to that point. And being me, I was like, okay, great. Like, of course I'll go to that. Like, if that's the goal, is like that I'm going to get here to this place of not having to deal with this. Of course I'll go.
They're essentially promising that, or not even promising, but suggesting that you can, well, it's in the title, change, that you can transform these feelings and hopefully not feel feelings for guys, but feel feelings for women instead. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like doing some research about like, when did this even start? And like the movement itself started in 2016, which was the year that I got there. So I'm very much like
Oh my gosh.
on the forefront of like, this is new. This is, I don't know what to expect. I don't know anyone in this. I like, they don't really know what they're doing yet either. But yeah, so pretty much for me, what it looked like was there was these meetings once a week where men in the church and community would go and hear like a speaker come and talk about their sexuality or the struggles that they're dealing with and how God's helping them. And then we come together in small groups and talk and kind of share our experiences. And I was always the youngest person, like in these spaces. A lot of it was like a lot of older men, like middle-aged 40, 50-year-old men. People like I wouldn't necessarily want to be like,
Right.
like looking at it now. Yeah, I was going through some of my journals yesterday and like reading some of the things I was feeling during this time in my life. And it's really intense seeing some of these emotions that I was feeling and the confusion that I had. There's a lot.
What'd you say in your journals? What was it that stood out?
Um, I think for me, just one of the like underlying themes of all of this was um, like I was promised that I would get healed and that I would change through this. And the message that was like being spoke was that these people who are leading this group already got their healing and it's possible for me. And so I was so excited and like expectant, like, okay, this is what I need. I'm going to get fixed, get healed, whatever. And then like sitting in these groups, it was so awkward and like I felt very uncomfortable and like discouraged because we'd come together in these small groups and we'd have each other share about maybe their experiences from the week or just part of their life. And the underlying theme of their stories was like struggle with same-sex attraction and I'm not happy and I want to change but I can't. And like the highlight of some of these people's week is like I saw a girl walk by and like I thought she was pretty and like that was the highlight, is like at least I thought she was pretty. And I'm like, oh, what the I don't think I want to be in this room of people. I don't want to be sitting here in 20 years from now having like the highlight of my week be I think a girl's pretty that walked by. And during BSSM, like throughout this first year that I was there, they had this week of like sexuality week where they brought in a lot of the leaders from this change movement to talk about how they've been changed. And one of the leaders was a man who was in the gay lifestyle, is what they said, and then has now got married and has kids. And he's like very flamboyant in the way he talks and the way he looks and acts and everything. So it's not convincing. Like I'm definitely not convinced that this person
It's not super straight. That guy's so straight. I know probably what you're talking about. Yes.
yeah, so straight. And they would preach about being changed, but then in these meetings that I'm sitting in with these people, he would then talk about how he still is attracted to men and that hasn't changed. But from the stage, he doesn't talk about that. But in these smaller groups, they're pretty much admitting like, I'm not actually healed, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was so bizarre. And, you know, I have a lot of empathy because I still have friends who are in this environment and still live in Reading and are connected to these people. And so I want to talk about it in a way that's like respectful, but also acknowledge the pain that I walk through. But it's really, really, really sad. I was really, really depressed being in these meetings and groups and I hated it. But I went and I was there for 6 months attending these weekly sessions with these people. And yeah, I'd have to check in with like my pastor and my direct leader like every so often to talk about like my experience and how I've been how's it going with my sexuality journey. But they also told me not to really talk about it with other people than them.
Really? They told you not to talk to other people about it?
Yeah, it was more so like
Other friends, other people in school?
it was more so like keep this between us and the group that you're a part of, and like they're going to help walk you through it, but this is something that not everyone needs to know about. And so
Do you think they didn't want people talking about the group potentially and getting the info about what the group is up to out there?
I think they also wanted it to be like a safe space, and I think some people who were attending this group were not like openly out, and some of the
Right.
people in this group were also like married and like to a woman. And
Yeah.
I think it was like a way of like protecting them and like not wanting to really talk about it, and also them trying to figure out like what to do with me and what to do with us. And like was I a danger to the school or this environment or yeah, I don't know, it was very strange, but I wasn't supposed to talk about it.
That's the thing about this. The change movement is really, you find it if you are gay and if they, but they underplay it. They did a social media post when it first came out and got a ton of backlash. And then they rebranded it, pushed it again. And a lot of people don't even know this is happening at Bethel. I mean, Bethel is this cute worship place with these CDs that you hear on the radio all the time. And here they're trying some pretty interesting healing for gay people, which has been tried a lot and hasn't worked. So towards the end of your time, so you're in this thing for 6 months. So this is all the way through your first year of ministry school, you're in this program?
Yeah, for the most part.
So when did you start going from like believing it might be possible to losing hope?
My hope was lost going to these meetings because
Slowly lost by seeing the people actually in the program
by
that
seeing the
were not
people
changing.
who were in it who were not changing, and then the leader not even being changed either. I think that was hard for me to grasp, and I really hated going. And so I ended up telling my pastor, I was like, "Hey, I've been, but I really don't think I'm going to continue going." And her response was like, "Okay, you don't have to go, but you need to have a father figure who's speaking directly into your life, who you're sharing things with, blah, blah, blah." Because a lot of the thinking too in this environment was like having like a lack of father figures or father issues can play a role in like being gay, blah, blah, blah. So that was one of the answers that they had, was like, you need to find a father figure who can speak into your life, like a straight Christian married father figure with kids.
Hope
So-
just not an attractive one, because that should become too safe.
No, he definitely was not.
Before we get into that, just hearing about you talk about the process, what they recommend you do, what would you say their actual game plan is? So obviously there's having meetings, sharing, and hearing that back. And I've gone through a little bit of like the second level of this at Jesus Culture, because I was in programs that came from this essentially. But so that was one thing we did. You're sharing what you thought of, like sexually, whatever. And then what else were you doing in the change program?
Yeah, a lot of it was like taking action steps to get to where you want to be. And that looked like we had these daily declarations that we needed to say, of like repeating that I am straight, I will marry a woman, I'm attracted to women, things like this. Very like repeat after me,
Like
brainwashing.
declarations like that?
Yeah. Like things like this where they're like, you have to say it till you believe it. And there is like some neurological things where it's like when you say it enough, your brain does start to believe it. And like if you do say it enough, like your DNA and your brain, the neuroplasticity is like starting to believe that this is true. And when you're in this environment for so long, it does feel very confusing because you're doing these declarations and doing these things and telling yourself and lying to yourself for so long. And another part of it was a lot of times they would encourage us to go on dates with girls and like put ourselves out there and go on these dates and like ask girls out, which I did, which feels so messed up looking back now, because it was like so wrong to put these people and women in like this place of like, hey, you're part of an experiment to help change me, hopefully. Obviously it never worked out for, I don't think, any of us, but that was part of it too, was that aspect, the declaration aspect. And I'm sure there was more, and this was 2016, 2017, so I'm sure it's changed a lot since then too. And there could be other pieces that I'm not familiar with, but for me, that's what it looked like, were those pieces.
What the idea was, you're not gay, you're just attracted, and what do they think makes you have, because the idea is just it's like an affliction or a slight bump in your normal sexual interest. What do they say causes it?
It's interesting, Nate, because I feel like people had different theories. There was a lot of theories. There was not like one solid way. But for me, one thing that really marked me and messed me up was I also was required to go to these like they're called sozos. You know what that is, Nate?
Oh yes.
Can you explain it? Because you could probably explain it better than me.
Yeah, so Sozo I also went to when I was dealing with my sexuality, and they knew. It's basically like, this is what I'm feeling like I don't like myself, I'm feeling like I'm gay, whatever. And then they're like, okay, well, picture God in the room. What's God saying about that? And what does Jesus think about that? Okay, what does Jesus want to do? Does he want to hug you? Okay, do you want to sit down with Jesus? And so you're visualizing spiritual things while this person's praying for you, and your sozo leader is getting into very, very psychology things that, and they're usually not psychologically trained at all. And so it's very much like a pastoral counseling, but then they're asking you to dig into deep, deep psychological stuff. Is that so? Like accurate description of sozo?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Mine was interesting because I remember the first one that I did, the person who was doing it was eating chips while they're praying for me and like doing this thing.
Stop.
And so it was like so distracting. And I'm like, I can't even listen to what you're saying because of he's just like just smacking and crunching on these like Doritos. But yeah, I was told, or I had to go to a couple of these and they didn't work. And so then there's like, maybe you might know the name of it. There's like another level of intensity that they have. Like, I forget what it's called.
Shabar?
Yes. Did you do these
in
too?
there.
Did you do that?
I was in Bethel School Ministry for like 3 years. I know all about it. I don't know if I did it, but I watched it done or something.
Okay. Well, that's what it was. That's crazy. You remember that. So that's was my next task was like, okay, these sozos aren't working. Let's do this. And this one really messed me up because I was brought into a room and there's a lady who's like praying for me, who was going to be praying for me. They turn off like all the lights and they start like walking around me and like speaking in tongues and doing all these things. And I didn't fully know what to expect, but the goal was like to cast out a demon during this whole experience. And I didn't fully know that. And she was kind of going back and like telling me and prophesying and like all these weird religious words were being used about when this demon came to me. And she pretty much told me that she sees that when my mom was giving birth to me, that there was a demon that came into me in the hospital room. And she was then asking me to try to go back to that place in that room where I'm being born and try to find Jesus in this room. And I'm just like, what? Like, I'm not tracking with like where she's going with this. And I'm like, I'm supposed to picture my mom too, like legs open, like me coming forth. I'm just was like,
I don't want to be in there.
I don't want to be in there. I mean, I was in there technically, but I was like, what? And so then she's doing all these prayers and speaking tongues and repeat after me and all these things to remove this demon, because that was her thinking and her like insight from God is when it happened, was that moment when I was being born. But everyone had like different theories about like when it started, when it happened. For me, that was what she thought, but other people thought other things. People thought because I wasn't close with my dad, that was a factor in it. And yeah, just like everyone had their own theories. So it was never something that was like concrete. It was kind of just like this mystery. I don't know how it happened.
So I know I find that happens with a lot of different anti-gay or ex-gay movements, whatever. They always have different ideas and they never really line up. And if you're an analytical person like we are, we start to look at all these things. You're like, okay, so it was a demon at birth, or it was my dad's shitty, like, or sorry, my dad like not being close enough. Like all these things. You're like, okay, so which is it? And I don't have this or this, so should I be get like the process of trying to dissect that, and then once you realize how random it all is, you really start to be like, oh, you guys have no idea what you're doing, do you? Like, you're just going for it, and you're so passionate about your solutions, and none of them are working for anybody, and you can tell by all these 50-year-old men that are so depressed in this small group. And that's getting back to that. That's what I've seen too. Like I've met so many people, and I've talked to people that have been married for 20 years that were gay and were trying to do what these groups tell you to do, and they have a very confused wife and several confused kids that are finding out that their dad never was attracted to their mom. Not like that. And so it would seem to me that these movements, as proven many times, are not actually causing any change. The change movement needs a new name.
Yeah, I definitely saw all of that, and it's really heartbreaking because you see these people who are in so much pain, and not only them, but then they're bringing their spouse into it, their kids into it, like you're saying, and it's a ripple effect of how this plays off in other, like how everyone's life is affected by this. And then asking me to go on dates with girls and like then have someone else tied into this just felt so wrong. And so that's why I ended up stop going because I couldn't get behind it. Like, yeah, I wanted healing, but I didn't want it this way.
Anyone that is still open and thinking critically will look at all these things and say it's not working.
Yeah. And I think my experience being like 18, 19 in this environment, like I'm a nurse now. I didn't say that, but I've learned a lot since this time of my life. And like knowing about like neurologically that like our prefrontal cortex isn't developed until we're 25. And so I'm even more vulnerable to like this manipulation, to this pressure from authority figures. Like my critical thinking is not developed at all. And so I'm believing anything anyone's telling me. I'm not questioning it. I'm not having these deep thoughts of like, wait, this feels wrong. It was kind of like, I already said yes, so I'm just going to keep going with whatever they tell me to do, which is really dangerous. And I feel like I'm lucky that not worse things happened to me because it could have easily happened.
Yeah, and you're literally just a kid. I mean, 18, that's a child in my book. And the fact that you have all these people, and your parents didn't know this was going on. Like, yeah, you're an adult now, but you are going to a place where you're supposed to encounter God. You wanted to pray for people. You wanted to, Bethel stuff, see signs and wonders, miracles. And all of a sudden, you are in this experimental program that is not even very tested and has been shown, like conversion therapy has been shown to cause severe mental harm to youth. And there's some really, really intense and dark stories if you research this with what happens to some people after they attempt conversion therapy and it doesn't work. Not only is it mentally so confusing, but having hope in something that's supposed to make you loved by God if you change, and then losing that hope when you realize you're not going to be able to change, and then feeling that I'm not worthy of love from God or from my community because I can't stop being gay. What that does to your heart, especially like as an 18-year-old, it's devastating. I think we've both been in that hope loss moment, and it's something no one should have to go through, let alone someone that's so young and vulnerable.
No, 100%. And I think like statistically speaking too, like there's so much data about how kids growing up in environments that are not affirming and who identify as LGBTQ are twice as likely to attempt suicide than their counterparts who aren't in this sort of environment. And I think that makes it so real. And from a personal experience, like I'm a nurse now and I work with kids in a children's hospital, and I see a lot of I see stories of kids who are attempting suicide and they're 12, 13, 14. And like when you're faced with seeing it, it might not be for the same reasons always, but just in general, it's like, do we understand what we're doing to a generation and these kids by telling them that something is wrong with them and there's no solution, and there feels like there's no solution? It's really, 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 really messed up. And I just have a lot of empathy because there's so many kids who are raised in these, Bible Belt states, and that's all they know is this environment. They don't see past it. They can't see past it. They've never seen a gay person. And so it feels really hopeless. And so my head goes there to these people because I'm safe now. I'm okay. But a lot of people aren't. And yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, you're lucky your time in this movement, you were able to assess and pop out, but there's still tons of people going through this program right now. They're just going to ministry school and popping into this and don't know what they're signing up for, had no idea what was going to be taught here. And that scares the crap out of me as someone who knows we were both those 18-year-old kids, and we're like, there's another 18-year-old kid going there this fall that is going to have the same situation. And that's kind of why I want to talk about this, because this is part of our growing up was this movement. And there's a lot of beautiful things that we experience, spiritual things, life, and to know that this is happening behind closed doors, like in that same ministry school that's all happy and light, and in this behind this music program that's so loved by many and it seems so positive and is all about love, and then this is that we defend closed doors. You did a second year, correct?
I was there for 3 years.
Okay, so you did 3 years, and so during this time, you're staying in the closet, but you're just being mentored by some sort of leader who's helping you
Yeah,
make the right choices.
pretty much. And I was then like in my third year there, I was then like put in like I was now this intern that was my intern who told me that I can't say the word gay. I was now in that position for other students. And one of the like moments that really I think back to was one of the leaders in that time of my life was like wanting me to talk about like my same-sex attraction and my experience in the change movement and all these things from and speak to our group of students of 70 students from a perspective of like I've already been healed. And I was in this place of like this doesn't feel right because I'm not, and I'm in the middle of my story, my journey, whatever. And it was pretty much like kind of used as like a tool to get other students to be vulnerable and open about things that they're going through. And then I felt sort of like I'm just being used. And a lot of moments like that where it's like I was being kind of exploited for my story in this environment when I didn't feel comfortable sharing, and like I wasn't healed and I wasn't changed. And I was then given a microphone to talk about it when I never asked for it. Yeah, it's really sad to think about.
You became that person that wasn't healed and would talk about it in the group behind the backs, and then on stage they tossed you up there like, talk about your healing. You became the thing you hated. They made you. That sucks.
It does. Yeah, really hard. So I was in this environment for 3 years. And then I had the opportunity to go to Jesus Culture in Sacramento to help launch their leadership school that was launching. And my father figure at the time felt like God's hand was on it, is what he said. As long as I stay connected to him and like stay under this like umbrella of like Bethel and like the structure, because out of that structure there was just this like deep fear that I'm gonna lose everything that I've gained. All the progress and everything that I've made is gonna be gone if I leave this umbrella. Which you begin to believe that of like, you're right, like I can't leave, like, and that's how you get stuck. That's how cults happen. That's how all these things, is just being told that like if you leave, then like everything's lost and you lose your community, you lose all these things. So it felt so real, I was like, okay, I'll be a part of this, but it's because it's connected and under the same umbrella.
Yeah, you feel safe.
So I ended up moving to Sacramento. Yeah, I felt safe, and I ended up moving to Sacramento to do an unpaid position helping launch this leadership school, which was connected to Bethel. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So your second unpaid internship through the
Second
Bethel
one
program.
Yeah
2 years.
2 years not
much
getting
work,
paid.
no pay.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah, so much. Yeah, I spent tens of thousands of dollars, I feel like, throughout these times of just like trying to fundraise and like make it and survive and have food and pay for rent and all these things, while being told that I can't work or like I need to focus completely on God. And then yeah, it's really crazy to think about.
Yeah. No, back in the line about like trying to keep yourself in a safe environment, I so recognize that. Like I wanted to work for Jesus Culture for the same reasons. Like I left Bethel and I wanted to stay in those ministry environments because I was afraid of what I might get up to if I was outside of those environments. And it's like, wait a second, so we're healed and being gay isn't real and it's just attraction, but as soon as we leave a highly controlled, highly protective environment with someone directly over us checking in on us every week, we're all of a sudden gay again. It's like, so tell us more about how well this program works.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's so real in that moment of like the fear of leaving,
So then you're at Jesus Culture, and then that's where we met randomly. And so when did you start to pull things apart and think maybe you're gay?
I have a very vivid memory of like, some people like it happens over time. For me, it was like a moment of like, this is messed up and I don't believe this. And I want to like preface it and say I made a lot of amazing friends at Jesus Culture, and like the ministry itself, I mean, there's flaws in everything, but I'm really thankful for my time there. And I met a lot of great people. And so I just want to say
Yeah.
that. But
Same.
yeah. And there was a moment, this was probably like a couple of months into school, the leadership school starting, where we had like a Bible teacher come in, and he's super, super smart, like knows the Bible front to back very well. And he was talking about his experience because he lived in San Francisco for like a big part of his life. And he was talking about like what he saw in San Francisco and how the city's falling apart and how the gay community is just like rampant there and like all the terrible things that they're doing. And just like ranting about San Francisco. And I remember like, as he's talking about this, he's then trying to like connect scripture to it, but he said something that like has stuck with me forever. And I still think about it. And he's like, he said this with like such venom in his mouth too. So just to like set the stage of like how he's talking about it is, he said, I have so much more respect for people who are gay, who want nothing to do with God, than those who can pretend that you can still be gay and be a Christian and be in the church. And I was like, wait, what? And then he said it again. And he's like, I have so much more respect. Because you can't be both. And I then watched these classmates, people that I'm like helping lead whatever, then like clap, and then some people started standing up and giving like a standing ovation to this language about how you can't be both, and how I just was like, and just shocked because it felt like a slap in the face, because what I'm translating that as is like, and like the sharpest way, like meanest way, is like, we'd rather lose you than like accept you completely, like for who you are.
Yeah.
And honestly accept you. And for me, I feel like that's when everything started to fracture of like, I don't believe this. And I left that room and I went to the bathroom and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, like we're talking about looking at myself in the mirror. And I'm like, this isn't right. And this is not who I am. This is not the God that I know. This is not the message of love that I want to follow. And this feels really hateful, actually. And I feel like that's when everything started to either fall apart or come together. However you want to look at it.
It's that one thing that you can't reconcile with God and what you've been taught, where you see that the hopeful, loving community and doctrine you thought you were in have some holes in their love in their kindness, and then it makes you pull things back a little, pull the curtain back, which you're so afraid to do. And if you allow yourself to feel like some things might not be completely accurate in the church, what else could not be accurate? And what if you weren't an abomination? What if you were just who you are? And if trying to be what they want you to be makes you miserable, like all those men in that group, then why would God want that, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And like for me, from that point on, I was like, I need to start therapy. And like with working through these emotions or feeling, not conversion therapy, thank God, like actual therapy with a real qualified therapist.
Therapy for help with the therapy.
Yeah, totally. And I asked to meet with the person who was directly above me at the time to talk about this, because I was like, is this really what our theology is and what we were thinking is like what this guy's saying? And like it took a couple weeks, but I ended up meeting with him and talking to my leader about this. And his perspective was like he apologized and he knew my story and like was like, yeah, I don't think he said it probably in the best way, blah, blah, blah. I'm like kind of trying to defend him, but also apologize in a weird way. And I told him I'm starting therapy, and pretty much his response was, yes, that's a good idea, but you need to do it with this person. And it was therapy connected to Bethel.
Yeah.
And a leader there who's like not the change movement, but a different person. And he's like, it's really hard to get into this guy, but he's like, but I can make the connection for you, and you can start therapy with him, and he can really help you, blah blah blah. And I said no, and that's when things became real, because I then felt like I was going to be like, things were going to be taken away from me in the sense of like almost punishment for not agreeing to do this and meet with this person who is still connected to this world. And I'm like, I need to have someone who's outside of this umbrella, like give me some guidance, you know? And then COVID happened, which was the best saving grace of my whole life, because it allowed me to step away and like really think about things and start therapy with a real therapist and begin to unpack all of these things. And I think we met sometime soon after this. Yeah, and it was such a process of then like figuring out what I'm feeling, what I want, and am I going to like own this part of my story? Which is why I was in therapy, to figure that out.
Yeah, and learning to love yourself again after all those messages of hating a part of yourself. It takes a long time to bring it all back together after trying to cut it all apart in conversion therapy kind of teaching.
100%.
But there's just like, first one, there's so much lightness and joy to you. I didn't really know you when you were in the middle of the heaviest parts of your fights, but like, if being gay and open is like evil, then I can't explain you. I think you're someone that I've known for a long time, so I can say this really confidently, like pure-hearted, kind soul, genuinely loving to other people, a giver, just a really beautiful person. And I say that like I would say by most standards, people would look at you and be like, oh, this is a really beautiful person. I really mean this. Like, just your heart is really, really lovely. And to imagine anyone looking at you right now and thinking anything like what people say about people that are actively gay, it makes me upset. That's one of you're one of the testaments that I can say, well, no, that person is living fully themselves, and look at what that looks like. So I'm glad that you found your path and got free and found therapy and all that. I'm just like, and I'm so thankful to be friends with you as well.
Thank you for saying that. And like, ditto to you. You're such an inspiring human. And I think having stories like these are so important, and like being able to share. And so thank you for like having this platform. And like, no, throughout all this process, it wasn't like then coming out was like rainbows and butterflies. It was really, really hard. But I remember like a quote from Glennon Doyle, who I love. Do you know who Glennon Doyle is?
Yeah.
It really impacted me during this time. And it was, your job is to disappoint as many people as it takes to not disappoint yourself. And I went on this radical journey of feeling like I'm going to disappoint a lot of people. And I did, but I was true to myself. And I wasn't going to disappoint myself anymore.
I think that's kind of key little thing. We a lot of it, we think we're disappointing God, disappointing other people if we let ourselves be gay. But deep down, I think we know. And so a lot of us hold on just to not disappoint others. That quote is, yeah, it's profound. Well, thank you for sharing. This has been really, really beautiful, and again, I really appreciate it. Do you want people to reach out to you? Do you want to share any? Sometimes we let people share their info if they want, but you're probably good without. They know your name, so if they want to follow you, you're not trying to be an influencer at this current moment.
You can totally reach out. My Instagram's Judah Rob, but I have a whole nother story about Instagram and how I had to get off social media because it became too much after coming out.
You did the brave like coming out post and then just got trounced, and I didn't do it the same way I did on TikTok, so there was enough layers. But I respect your boldness. You're a brave man. Well, thank you, Judah.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you for being here today and sharing all of this very personal stuff. I feel like we could do another. Honestly, there's so much more in your story, and I feel you go more, but that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for having me, Nate.
thank you for being here.